Hello my beautiful people. So it is about that time once more. So I just want to say I'm Raphael.rey from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for being here. So Retrogradia, a mini series. I really hope you enjoy these. I put a fair amount of effort into it to really kind of try and bring you information that I believe was pertinent, that was important, and that would hopefully really help and assist you going forward. Why did I do this? So we've got the eclipse season. I'm actually filming this on the day of the eclipse. So before we start, I would like to bless this reading, these notes, everything that comes through intuitively with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise, and they help you on your path to your highest vibrational good. I offer the most abundant and pure and clear wisdom that I can find and that I can intuit, and I hope that it comes forward to help you and assist you in your life path for the better in some way, shape or form. So why am I doing this? I'm doing this because, as I said, I'm filming this on the day of the eclipse, the 13th of July. And I'm fully aware that there are still 2 more eclipses to go. On the run up to this, you know, some intense stuff has happened for me, and I'm sure it has for everybody. If you haven't yet, check out your solar eclipse to see how it tallies up. And also, you know, for some people, you might want to use it retroflectively. So you look back and say, actually, you know what, yeah, that stuff did happen, or no, I'm not experiencing that yet. Don't forget, the eclipses tend to unpack over 3 to 6 months, depending on how prominent they are in your chart, and you know, obviously what other aspects they're making as well. No transit in astrology happens on its own. It's always worth mentioning that, you know, because there's always something else going on in your chart. The reason I pick out specific events is because I believe that they're going to have weight regardless. So yeah, so let's go into it. So the term Retrogradia, I affectionately made up last year because we had 5 planets in the April 2017. We had 5 planets go retrograde. It was a different mix of planets then, and it's a different mix of planets now. And as you can see, you've got more of them this time. So I ask you to ask yourself, what were you doing in April 2017? What changes did you implement? What changes were implemented in your life that you didn't have any seeming control over? And how have they benefited you? What have they wrought in you? What have they taught you? Everything that that happens under a retrograde planet is about internalizing that energy. It gives you a chance to rethink, redo, re-strategize, all of those so kind of, you know, like you remember something to bring something back, to bring a memory back to you. So it goes with, you know, any of the words. Rewind, retrograde, you know, it's about taking things backwards. Now, obviously, we all know by now, scientifically, it's impossible for a planet to actually travel backwards. What happens is it's an optical illusion, and at the time of the retrograde, the planet tends to be closer to Earth, so its energy, its vibe, its symbolism tends to have more of an impact on us than it would usually. So it's a time of deep change, wisdom and insight. Yes, it comes with a certain amount of intensity, but it also offers you the ability to effect change in your life. You know, and that's the truth of it. It allows you and supports you to make changes in your life, and it allows the changes that you do make, that you do implement into your life under the retrogrades, to really be lasting, because you're looking at them through the eye of scrutiny. You're looking at them from a deep sort of sense of, okay, what needs to be redone, what needs to be not reimagined, although that's another one, but what needs to be re-examined, you know, in order for me to move forward and create the best for it. So Retrogradia, that's the term that I came up with last year for when so many planets go retrograde. As I said, last year it was 5, this year it's 6, you know, and 6 pretty big and intense ones, you know. So I'm going to go through them as you can see them here on the board, and hopefully this just gives you a bit more understanding. Like I said, we're going through this mad intense period of the eclipses, and on top of that, once you get out of the eclipse season, you know, and even before then actually, because the period that we're talking about, by the way, will be between the 7th of August and the 19th of August. So it's not really long. I think it's just under 2 weeks actually, but that's going to be really intense. And you know, we're just off the back of an eclipse today. We've got 2 more ahead of us, the lunar eclipse in Aquarius, which is going to happen on the 27th of July, and then we've got the solar eclipse, the last solar eclipse I believe, in Leo, that will happen on the 11th of August. So this kind of is in the middle of all of that, so you've got all this other intense energy taking place, and on top of that you're going to have this even more intense energy when you start to look at the fact that you've got 6 planets then going retrograde. So you know, this is going to be everybody going through deep change, everybody going through the process of elimination, everybody implementing huge changes in their thinking, in their waking life, in their subconscious. You know, we're all going to be doing this work, this deep introspective work, and we're all going to be doing it collectively and together, and we're all going to also be doing it separately on our own. So, you know, the reason I'm putting out this mini series is because I want people to be able to create and have the best from their lives. I want people to go into this, you know, they say forewarned is forearmed. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to give people the understanding of what they may face, what may come up for them. You know, it could be totally different to what I say. It could be exactly spot on. It could be a mix of the above. But ultimately, it's the information that I'm putting out here is to assist people and to help them move forward, like I always say, to their highest vibrational good. No matter how challenging something is, there is always a blessing and a lesson. Always. They work in tandem, just like the eclipse, unless you get a rare event like a triple hitter and then 6 planets retrograde just after. This is exactly why I'm doing this. So first things first, you'll have Mercury go retrograde, I believe it is the 26th of July through to the 18th of August. Now Mercury, what is Mercury? Mercury is our thought process. Mercury is our communication. It's what we say, it's our ideas, it's our inspiration, it's the, you know, the forms of communication that we decide to use. Mercury rules Gemini, you know, the master communicators, the social butterflies, all of that stuff. Mercury as well, it's also worth, you know, it's your thought process and your mind and your conscious decisions and your, you know, your conscious thoughts and the interaction of speech and communication that you have. Text messages, emails, internet-based stuff, social media, all of that stuff. But it's also worth mentioning that Mercury, you know, I think under the symbolism was Ganymede, was, you know, the messenger between gods, and was always flitting here, there and everywhere and delivering messages and, oh, da-da-da-da, so-and-so said, and da-da-da-da, and all of that. So that's Mercury in a nutshell. Mercury's going to be in Leo. And Leo's all to do with the heart, it's all to do with your courage, it's all to do with what you genuinely feel in your heart, what you feel connected to. And this is interesting as well, because Mercury's the mind, and it's bringing that mind down into the heart center, down into the heart space. And like I said, you know, when a planet goes retrograde, it tends to internalize more. It tends to bring that energy inward. And one of the things that I really believe about Mercury is the reason communication tends to get fraught, or, you know, and this is one of the other things, but before I go into that, let me backtrack slightly. So Mercury is about what I say, what you hear, and sometimes those two things versus each other. So am I being heard for what I'm actually saying? Am I saying what I'm actually, you know, am I meaning what I say? Am I saying what I mean? Are people hearing what I actually do mean, or am I coming across in the wrong way? These are things that you're really going to have to sort of ask yourself, you know, and given the fact that it's taking place in Leo, this is going to be about you speaking from your heart. This is going to be about you communicating from your heart, saying what you feel, saying what is important to you, explaining how you need to be nurtured. Don't forget as well, Leo rules creativity, it also rules children. And this talks very much about that inner child within all of us. So certainly for the adults out there in the world, this is going to see you really getting back to, you know, what were my hopes and dreams when I was younger? What was I passionate about? What did I want to pour my heart and soul into? You know, what was I deeply connected to? What have I not been honouring, you know, that child within myself anymore? What have I not been feeding that child? How have I not been nurturing that child? You know, Mercury's going retrograde, so it's internalising this thought process energy, and it's bringing you into that heart space, into the Leo space, you know, which is your heart, your courage, your backbone. It's going to ask you to fight for things, not in a Mars sort of way, fight for things, but it's going to ask you, what is important to me? What is, you know, what is in my heart? And when you start to communicate what is in your heart, what you feel, what you're deeply connected to, what you're passionate about, what you're emotional about, when you really start to come from that heart space, you start to think with a heart set instead of a mindset. You'll start thinking with a heart set. And that's a really powerful thing. I remember a lady saying to me once about the heart set, you know, and she just blew me away with it, because I was like, you're a genius woman, you know what you're talking about. And she's not a Leo, but she was a fire sign, so she knows all about passion and vibrancy in life. So when Mercury goes retrograde, as you all know, it tends to bring intense communication. Because I believe we sort of misunderstand, like what you hear versus what I say is not connecting somewhere. Technology seems to go a bit haywire. Back up your devices. If you are sending text messages, if you are writing emails, think twice, read it twice if you can, and it's not too personal. Let somebody else read it before you send it, so that you can get that second opinion, because under a Mercury retrograde, things tend to go a bit awry, especially when it comes to communication. You know, and when you throw in the fact that this is going to be coming from the heart space, you know, your emotions and your passion and the things that you're fired up and really powerfully emotive about, yeah, things can get, you know, either misconstrued or misunderstood. And this is why I'm doing this video, so that you can be aware of this stuff and you can catch yourself before it becomes a problem. So one of the things that I've always believed about Mercury, I can get into this now, is I believe that when it retrogrades in a specific sector, obviously it's an activation of that sector. It brings that sector to life. It shines a spotlight in some way, shape or form in that area of your life. That's what a transit is all about. But when Mercury goes retrograde and that energy is internalized, I believe that the biggest chunk of your, you know, they say we only use 10% of our brains anyway. I believe that the biggest chunk of your brain is so focused on the area that's being lighted up within your life that your conscious thought, even a portion of that, is taken up with the deep stuff that's going on. So your subconscious will be working 10 to a dozen. You know, and it will be tapping into your emotions, all sorts. Your conscious mind, therefore, doesn't have all of its full capacity to register everything that's taking place. And I believe that that's one of the reasons, because we're so occupied on a really deep level in the mind, that even some of the conscious energy of the mind, you know, the everyday communication, the everyday thought processes, even some of that is taken up with the really big stuff that your brain is processing because of the transit that's taking place. And that's why we get the miscommunication. That's why we get the crossed wires. You know, you're not hearing what I'm saying, or you don't mean what you're saying, and vice versa, and all of that stuff. So that's the Mercury retrograde in Leo. And this little symbol, the R with the X next to it, as many of you know by now, is the symbol for retrograde. So when you look in a chart, if you see a little red R with a cross on the bit, then you know that you're looking at a retrograde planet within that chart. So that's the Mercury retrograde. Very, very interesting. So now we go on to Mars. Now, this one is a this one's a doozy. I'm feeling this big time because it's happening in my sign. I'm a sun sign Aquarian, so I'm really, really feeling this. Mars is about your assertion. It's about your drive. brings in that word again, second hit, even though they're different planets and different energies. Passion. It's about how you assert yourself in the world. It's about how you push yourself forward, what you strive for, how you demonstrate what you are striving to, how you demonstrate your passion, how you assert yourself in the world, how you choose to be seen, and how you enforce that in your life. Mars is also where we find our passion and our ability to push forward, our ability to create something. But it's not the sort of creation that's, you know, like feminine and yin, where, you know, you nurture something. Mars is about creation. It's about, you know, I'm going to do. It's about action. It's about moving forward. It's about actually taking the step. It's about making sure that you push forward. And it also gives you your innate ability to do what needs to be done. And it's also worth mentioning as well, Mars isn't just about brute strength, or, you know, I want, bang on my chest and holler. It's not just about that. Mars is a soldier. Mars is also a general. You know, and soldiers and generals aren't just mindless meat sacks that walk around brutalizing and kicking off and punching at everything. You know, soldiers and generals are deeply strategic people. They understand how to strategize. They understand what a game plan is. They understand, you know, okay, well, if this happens, then these are the things that are going to take place around it. How do I minimize that or exacerbate that if I need to? You know, war and all of that stuff. War, Mars represents war. It's the warrior, the soldier, the general. War isn't just about, you know, brute force attacks, because they rarely work. Everybody knows that. It takes strategy. Look at the game of chess. Chess is all about war. But these people that know how to play chess, that are really good at it, are deeply strategic beings. They are able to look ahead, to project themselves, just like Mars, to project into the future, check out what the results might be, come back, right now I know how to make my move. And then when they see that chink in the armor, bam, that's when they make their move. Once they've seen that chink in the armor, boy, it's the same with an Aries and their words. You never want them to see the chink in your armor, because once they've seen it and they ram home, oh, it's all over. Mars is also a masculine energy, assertive, external, and even phallic. Yeah, it's worth mentioning. It's an outward facing energy, and it's almost projectile in its direction. And that is the truth of it. When Mars goes retrograde, which it really doesn't like to do, Mars is about forward progression. It's about where I want to be. It's about the future. It's about the moving forward. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It's the leader. You will always, and one of the things I believe in terms of monarchs, when you look at the old world, the king or the queen used to be at the front of the battle. So they would lead by example. This is how you do it. This is how we're going to win. This is where we need to be. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing. This is what we're striving to achieve. You know, and make of that what you will anyway. That's just my thoughts. So like I said, Mars doesn't like to go retrograde because it's all about the forward progression. Mars retrograde takes place once every, it's like 2.5 years ish. It's retrograde in Aquarius, and it will cross back into the sign of Capricorn, the sign that it's just left. Now for Capricorns, I believe, and not to get into this too much because this isn't about specific signs, but it's worth mentioning, for Capricorns this is going to be about removing finally the last bits of what doesn't really need to be there. For Aquarians it's going to be the same. This is about cutting away what just doesn't serve anymore, what is baggage, what is holding you back. Mars is a surgeon as well. It rules surgeons. You know, it's about cutting things away. It's the sword. You know, sharp objects, lasers, all of that stuff. And it's worth mentioning, if you're going for any surgery or anything under a Mars retrograde, you know, do everything that you can to ensure your aspect of the contract is fulfilled. And what I mean by that is look after yourself, eat well, get enough rest, you know, before and after your surgery. I'm not a doctor, I can't give you medical advice, but that would be sensible. Look after yourself before and after any medical stuff that you do have taking place, especially if it revolves around an operation. So yeah, this is the thing as well, you know, like I was saying about when the energy of a planet goes retrograde, it takes you back into yourself. It takes that energy, and you know, Mars is projectile energy, it's outward energy, it wants to go out, it wants to go forward. When Mars is retrograde, it internalizes that energy, and if that energy can't go out, it's got to go inward. And that can make for two things. One, it can give you a real passion for research, for learning, for strategy, for making the plans now, so that when it finally goes forward, you take off like a rocket, straight out, because all of that energy's been building. And then once once Mars finally starts to move forward itself, it will carry you on a wave of energy that just takes you not only to the finish line, but possibly even to the stars. What it requires you to do is to hang on to that energy and your ish long enough, you know, don't lose it. It requires you to hang on to yourself and your stuff longer than you wouldn't normally need to. And once it starts to go direct, you will start to see some really amazing results, because you've put the work in, you've put the planning in, and you've contained that energy so that when it's time to move forward, you can just explode like a rocket and go straight up, reaching for the stars. You know, look at that, it's an arrow, it's going outward, it wants to be out there. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a danger of imploding under a Mars retrograde. So if you can utilise the energy to strategize and plan to make deliberate steps towards your goals, and that is exactly what it's about. That's what it's asking you to do. That's what it's asking you to observe within yourself. So Mars in Aquarius. Mars in Aquarius is probably going to see the people, Aquarius, the group, the tribe, the collective, the human race, the humanitarian aid, really probably disagreeing with some of the stuff to do with the establishment, because Mars is a little bit of a rebel, you know, it likes to shake things up, it likes to talk about war. You know, when you combine these two as well, Mercury's asking us to look at what's deep within our hearts. And then the Mars stuff is asking us, actually, what don't I agree with? How do I assert myself within a group? How do I lead within a group? Whatever position in that group I may be, how do I lead that group forward for its highest ideal? And more importantly, how does the group or the tribe that I'm a part of assert itself in the world? And you know, what does that say about me? What does it say about us? And this is why I think, you know, the Mars retrograde is going to see the people. I mean, you can see it in the protests with, you know, certain person coming to London and lots of people really vocal about, I don't like this, I don't want that, da 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 da. You know, I don't talk about that stuff because it has its place, but I believe it brings a lot of energy down. And that's why I choose not to get into politics, really, because it's a heavy energy and it tends to bring things down, and I'm about building people up so that they can elevate, which is why I very rarely talk about those things. I could quite easily, and I could give some opinions that would probably really peeve some people off, but whatever, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion. That's the beauty of being a sentient human being. You have a right to speak, you have a right to an opinion. Anyway, again, I digress. It will see the people of the world trying to battle the establishment of some way. And I think it's not going to be about battling the establishment. I think it's going to be about battling what they believe is unfair. And a lot of that, I mean, Jupiter's just gone direct in Scorpio again. So, you know, he's going to start to, you know, turf out some big secrets once again. And I think this is what people are kind of coming to this conclusion of, actually there's a lot of unfairness going around, and it seems to be the masses that are taking the brunt of it. You know, we're the ones working hard, we're the ones having our taxes and pensions and everything squeezed to the last dime, and we're not getting anything out of it, and that's unfair. You know, that I think that's one of the things, that Mars is the leader, it's the soldier, it's the strategizer. It's going to see people, especially, you know, with the Mercury stuff going on, looking into their hearts and saying, what do I believe the injustices of the world are, and how can I do something about it? You know, in your personal life, this will see you strategizing. The Mars retrograde will see you strategizing. How can I push forward? And if you can hold yourself together for long enough in that space, you will really be able to make strides with your plans when Mars finally moves forward. I believe on August the 27th. So that is the first part of the mini series of Retrogradia. And I really hope you've enjoyed it, and stay tuned for parts 2, and possibly 3 and 4, depending on how much time I have. Take care, my beautiful people. I wish you an abundance of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance itself. If you would like to book a reading with me, you can do so on the link below. Just tarot readings at this moment in time. And if you would like to donate to the channel, you can do so on the link below. You can also find me over on Instagram. I look forward to having you. I look forward to all of your comments. I love them so much. I love interacting with you guys, because the Radiant Reality family really is one of the absolute best. I love you. Take care, and I will see you for the next part.